Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Welcome to another new moon, a new month. This evening, we're going to go over a topic called the worthy adversary. For those of us who watch the fight game, we know that opponents are picked. If you watch the fight game, there's certain fighters that come along and they seem to be running up the ropes or running through the whole process. And all of a sudden you hear them saying, "Oh, I want the champ, I want the champ." And the corner is telling them, "No, you're not ready for the champ." The trainer is telling them, "No, you're not ready for the champ." The management is telling them, "No, you're not ready for the champ." But in his mind, he's ready for the champ. But then over some period of time, they'll give you that opportunity because they see things that you don't see. In most games, just like in the fight game, there's film that you study. You study your opponent. You get in to see what his flaws might be. You also get in to see where your flaws might be that you need to correct and make adjustments before you take on this opponent. So that's something that we also need to look at, because we have a worthy adversary. And as we go through this class this evening, hopefully we'll get an understanding of what makes our adversary a worthy adversary. Go ahead, my brother. Can you read this definition that we have here?
Adversary. H341. Oyeb. Active participle of H340. Hating. An adversary. Enemy. Foe.
So how many of us actually understand who our enemy is and who the true foe is? A lot of times we see the person standing in front of us as the enemy or the foe. But do we really understand who our true enemy and foe is? And whether that person is just being used? And the tactics of the enemy and the foe. Let's begin tonight in 1 Peter. We're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 1 through 11. That's 1 Peter chapter 5. And we're going to read verses 1 through 11.
The elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder, and a witness of the suffering of the Messiah, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of Elohim which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for a filthy lucre, but of a ready mind.
Now, here's the problem that we've come across. This filthy lucre. From all of us that have come out of a Christian background, this is all we see. It's about the filthy lucre. It's all about the money. If you don't understand what lucre is, it's all about the money. So where then is feeding the flock of Elohim? Even while they're so-called feeding the flock, it comes with a monetary gain to get more information. They'll take you not even halfway down the path, a couple steps on the path, and then say, "Hey, if you want to learn more, you need to buy this DVD, or you need to buy my book, or you need to come to this seminar." That's filthy lucre. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Neither as being masters over Elohim's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock.
Be examples to the flock. Go ahead.
And when the chief shepherd shall appear, you shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Likewise, you younger, submit yourselves unto the elder. Yes, all of you be subject one to another.
So it says, likewise, you younger. It didn't say men or women. You younger ones, submit yourselves unto the elder. But is the elder truly an elder? Is he just an older, or she just an older? We have to look and examine who your true elders are. We've got kids in this room that know this book more than some adults. And if you run up on them, they might ask you a question that you have to run to the priest. "Excuse me, priest Esaac, this kid just asked me this question." So let's examine to see who truly are the elders in the midst and not just look at age. Go ahead.
And be clothed with humility, for Elohim resisteth the proud and giveth grace to the humble. Verse 6.
You know, and that's another thing. Humility. Be clothed with humility. Can someone approach us and show us our faults? Can someone approach you and show you where you need to change? Can you even humble yourself enough to go to show a brother or sister their faults? Humility goes both ways. Because some people can't humble themselves enough to, I ain't gonna talk to that brother, I ain't talking to that sister. So we always think that humbleness is just when somebody needs to talk to you or you need to be talked to. No, it goes both on both ends. Go ahead.
Verse 6. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Elohim, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you.
You know, there's one more thing I want to touch on in verse 5. Yes, all of you be subject one to another. Can we be subject one to another? Or does everybody have to be the chief? Go ahead.
Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour.
So all these principles that were just put forth is to help in being sober, being vigilant. Sober don't only have to be with alcohol or drugs. Sober could be the doctrine that you're on, or lack of doctrine. Because if anybody can't talk to you, to explain anything to you, then you're drunk on something else. You might be drunk on vanity. You might be drunk on self-will. Go ahead.
Verse 9. Whom resists, steadfast in the faith, knowing that the same affliction are accomplished in your brethren that are in the world. But Elohim of all grace, whom have called us unto his eternal glory by the Mashiach Yeshua, after that you are suffered a while. You have suffered a while. Make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen.
After you have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. So the sufferation leads to perfection if you can endure. But the biggest thing we see here, your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour. So let's get into a little bit of this of him seeking whom he may devour. Let's go to Job chapter 1. Let's see if Saul just said that statement just because it was something good to say or nice to say. Or was he just trying to scare him? Job chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 12.
There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the day of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, It may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed Elohim in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came also among them.
You know, we constantly hear this thing about birthdays, right? And it said, and his sons went and feasted in their houses, everyone his day. So everyone had a special day. Would they just pick the day that they want to feast? Or was this their birthday? But yet we keep getting this back and forth about whether to celebrate. Hey, feasting. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahweh and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it.
So he's on a recon mission. Okay? He's searching. He's seeking. He's on a mission. He's letting you know he's covering all angles. Right? Whence cometh you? From going to and fro, up and down. Making sure he ain't missing nothing. That's a recon mission. Reconnaissance for people who don't understand. Go ahead.
And Yahweh said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered Yahweh and said, Doth Job fear Elohim for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath, on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land.
Have you, he said, have you not made an hedge about him, about his house, about all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. How does he know this? He said every side. That means he has done his homework. He has scouted this man out. He looked for an opening. You got this thing sealed up tight. Recon. You can't present yourself as a foe and you don't know who you going up against, what you gonna face. This man know what he facing. Yahweh put it out. You considered Job? Bro, I done checked Job out, man. I can't get to Job. That's Fort Knox. Go ahead.
But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of Yahweh.
And how many of us consider, and if you haven't considered it, after tonight you might want to consider, as a servant of Yahweh, when is that presented to Yahweh about you? Me. Us. We. Are we prepared? Because in the end, when you come out shining, Yahweh gets glory. And depend on some things we're going to stumble and fall. But if you make it a permanent fall, then the adversary just got another teammate. We have to examine that. As we walk this walk and we going through different trials and tribulations, has Yahweh stepped back and said, okay, go ahead and test my servant. He's doing his homework. He knows what to put forth and when to put it forth. That's what makes him a worthy adversary. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, and we're going to read verses 1 through 11.
Then was Yahshua led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil.
Do we understand that first verse? Then was Yahshua led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. He wasn't going up there to party or have a good time. There was a purpose. He was being led up there to be tempted. How many times have we gone through circumstances and situations and stopped to say, hey, was I led to be tempted? When the pretty woman walked in the room, when the handsome guy walked in the room, when the money fell on the floor. Were you led to be tempted? When you could have fudged some numbers on a piece of paper and came out ahead. Go ahead.
And when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward hungered. And when the tempter came to him, he said, If thou be the Son of Elohim, command that these stones be made bread.
Now, he was led in the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. It didn't say when the temptation was going to start. But Lucifer waited for an opportune time. He had done fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He was now a hungered. Here comes Lucifer at his weakest point. Go ahead.
But when he answered and said, It is written, Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of Elohim.
So he's hungry and he tells him to make bread, right? Lucifer knows one thing about the individual that's in there. Yahshua the man is his vessel. But Israel, the spirit that's in the vessel, does not understand the emotions of man, the pain of man, the sufferation of man, the desires and lust of man. These are things he's having to deal with. Who already knows he doesn't know those things. But what does Yahshua do? What does the spirit that's within him do? Foundation. I might not know these things, but I know the foundation. Go ahead.
Verse 5, Then the devil taketh him up into the holy city, and setteth him on the pinnacle of the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of Elohim, cast thyself down, for it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone.
So he tests him with being hungry, pain of man, hunger pains. Now he's testing him with the security blanket of knowing that you got this over here. Just go ahead and do this, man. You're going to be all right. Go ahead.
Yahshua said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt Yahweh thy Elohim.
Back to the foundation. Go ahead.
Again, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things will I give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Yahshua unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship Yahweh thy Elohim, and him only shalt thou serve. When the devil leaveth him, then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him.
So now he tempted him with the lust of man. I can give you riches. I can give you all these things. Yahshua reserves right back the foundation, scripture. This is why we have to study to show ourselves approved. So when these temptations come and you've got nothing else to fall back on, you got the word. Have to learn to fight with the word. Spirit of Israel didn't understand the pain of man. It didn't understand the lust of man. Didn't understand the desires of man. But he knew one thing. The Word. And guess who also knew the Word? Lucifer. But he tried to come at him in a manner that he knew not and didn't understand. Or the adversary did his homework, came from an angle that he know the spirit's not used to. Let's go to Matthew chapter 8. Matthew's chapter 8, and we're going to start at verse 28.
And when he came to the other side into the country of Gregerson, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tomb, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Yeshua, thou son of Elohim? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time?
So, everybody sees Yeshua, but they also see the spirit that's in Yeshua, you son of Elohim. But they also know what? They've done their homework. It's not time for you to come and torment us. So, whatever you got planned, you can't do nothing to us. Once again, we're the adversaries. Even when it comes to their own demise, they know what to put forth. Hey man, you can't do nothing to us right now. It's not time. Understanding the playbook, understanding the rules. Understanding what you're up against and who you're up against. This is who we're up against. Devils, demons who understand the rules and regulations of the game. Go ahead.
Oh, isn't that it for...
No, go ahead. Read the rest of it for me, please.
Oof, I already changed the page. Let me go back. My bad. Gonna jump the gun on that.
Matthew chapter 8 and verse 30.
What page is that number on your Bible?
I don't have that up right now, my friend.
I am so sorry. Just give me a second. And there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. So the devil besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down the steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. And when they that kept them fled, and went their way into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Yeshua, and when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coasts.
Now, the reason I wanted to go ahead and finish it, we were supposed to stop at 29. This man got rid of devils. But you see what the city did? The people of the city besought him that he would depart out of their coast. So that means they preferred the demons more than him. And as long as we walk in this walk, that's what's going to happen to us. People are going to ask you to depart out of my coast. Sometimes they just won't tell you what coast they're on. So you won't show up. But keep walking the walk. All right, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel chapter 28, and we're going to start at verse 11.
Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, take up lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of Elohim. Every precious stone was thy covering, sardis, topaz, diamond, beryl, and the onyx, and the jasper, and the sapphire, and the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabret and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou was created.
So Lucifer has been in the Garden of Eden. Every precious stone was your covering. This does not match anything that we've been given as a depiction from a child until now of what the devil or what Lucifer looks like. So, right there, the adversary's got an upper hand on us already, because the image that we were given doesn't fit the magnificence of this creature in appearance. Go ahead.
Verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of Elohim. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire.
So he was anointed. When Yahweh anoints you, that means you've been given a job. He was the covering cherub. So that means all conversations is being heard by him. Go ahead.
Thou wast perfect in the ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Elohim, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupt thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. All they that know thee among the people shall be astonished at thee. Thou shalt be a terror, never shalt thou be any more.
So by the multitude of your merchandise, they have filled the midst of you with violence. When you look at the word merchandise, it comes from H4377. Merker, merchandise, also value. So he understood his value. But this value is what corrupted him. No servant is above the master. We're all servants. Anytime we think that we're something greater than we actually are, we walking down that path with Lucifer of lawlessness. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 3. You just mentioned you've been in the Garden of Eden. Genesis chapter 3, we're going to read verses 1 through 5.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh Elohim had made. He said unto the woman, Yes, has Elohim said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim had said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Yea, you shall not surely die. For Elohim does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
So how does he know what Elohim knows? We're looking at a simple serpent. Most people want to say, oh, you believe in a talking serpent. Adam gave names to all the animals, right? Why didn't this serpent ask Adam these questions? Way before she even came on the scene. Serpent could have had conversations with him and asked him. So then we know it was not the serpent per se that was asking the questions. But then we also know and we can see that some recon was done. It didn't go to Adam, it went to her. Adam has been around. He searched for an opportunity to get in. And she was that opportunity. And once he got in, he was able to wreck the whole Garden of Eden. We read earlier in Ezekiel, you've been in the Garden of Eden. And here's how we can prove he was in the Garden of Eden. But then let's also think back to when it say, let us make man in our image. He's the covering cherub. If you're rich enough to have a bodyguard, how many places do you go that your bodyguard's not there outside of your house? When you're outside of your realm, do you not take the bodyguard with you? Unless you're up to some dirt. So is this his first visit in the garden? Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. We don't even have to go there. I'll read it. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 14. I'll read Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So from then till now, he's still being called a serpent. He used the serpent, and the name stuck with him. Isaiah chapter 14, and we're going to start at verse 3.
And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, How hath the oppressed ceased? The golden city ceased. Yahweh hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, and persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest, and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir tree rejoice at thee, and the cedar of Lebanon, saying, Since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like us unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, and the warm is spread under thee, and the warm cover thee. And how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also upon the mountain of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds, and I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners?
Now, we heard him talking about the cities thereof, right? It's the man that destroyed the cities thereof. It's talking about, is this the man that weakened kingdoms, weakened nations? Remember what he told Yahshua when he showed him the kingdoms of the world? All this is mine, and I give it to whom I want. So now the people are realizing that this man was in charge of all this stuff. He ran amok and allowed it to be destroyed. Why? Because I want to exalt my throne above the Most High. If I'm dealing with this kingdom down here, I can't be up there, and I can't be above him. So I need to destroy this so I can get back to my other business at hand. Go ahead.
All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land and slayed thy people, and seed of evildoers shall never be renewed. Preparing slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith Yahweh of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and raiment, and the son and nephew, saith Yahweh. I will also make it a possession for the bittern and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the bosom of destruction. Besom of destruction, saith Yahweh of hosts.
All right, let's go to Hebrews chapter 2. And let's start at verse 5.
For unto the angels has he not put in subjection the world to come whereof we speak, but one in a certain place am I reading that right?
Mm-hmm.
One in a certain place testified, saying, What is a man that thou art mindful of? Or the son of
Mindful of him.
Of him, or the son of man that thou visitest him. Thou madest him a little lower than the angels. Thou crownedst him with the glory of honor, and didst set him over the works of thy hands.
So if you really paying attention to verse 5, okay? For unto the angels has he not put in subjection the world to come. There's supposed to be a new heaven and a new earth, right? But they're not given charge of this new heaven and this new earth. But one in a certain place testified, saying, What is man that you are mindful of him, or the son of man that you visit him? If you really pay attention, do you catch a little bit of jealousy there? So if you let jealousy build inside, jealousy will make you do some things that's not right. How long has this jealousy been building? Because remember earlier it says that Satan's going to be kicked out and his angels. So if this one is asking this question, and then this one that can show others and get them on the same team, hey man, what's the deal with these things, man? He keep going down there and visiting them and talking to them, and what's that all about? That's sibling rivalry, right? Because they're sons and we're sons. If you're a righteous servant. But then we don't have the strength that they have. So the mighty one is looking and say, but man, I can destroy him. Why you care for him so much? Go ahead.
But thou hast put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that he put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. But now we see not yet all things put under him.
Because even think about it. You have made him a little lower than the angels. You crowned him with glory and honor and did set him over the works of your hands. You have put all things in subjection under his feet. For in that you put all in subjection under him, he left nothing that is not put under him. That sounds strange coming from an angel, right? But the scripture also says what? Don't you know you judge angels? So us, these weak little creatures who can't stand toe to toe with them, has been given a lot of power to the point that we will even be able to judge angels. Some things to consider when you looking at the adversary. And understand why the adversary looking at you. Go ahead.
Verse 9. But we see Yeshua, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he by the grace of Elohim should taste death for every man.
So back to what I was saying earlier, when Yeshua was being tempted by Satan. Yeshua, the spirit Israel, was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, so that he could understand this flesh that we live in, the trials and tribulations and the pain and suffering that we go through. The only way to understand a man's burdens, what they say, walk a mile in my shoes, right? Okay, he was given that opportunity. Go ahead.
For it became him, for whom are all things, and by whom are all things, in bringing many sons unto glory, to make the captain of their salvation perfect through suffering.
And if you only see the man Yeshua and can't see the spirit, there goes the spirit right there. For it became him for whom are all things, and by whom are all things. Yeshua the man didn't create all things. Yeshua the man is not who all things came through. Go ahead.
For both he that sanctifieth and they who are sanctified are all of one, for which cause he is not ashamed to call them brethren, saying, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the church will I sing praise unto thee. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, behold, I, the children which Elohim hath given me. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil, the deliverer them, who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage.
So, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is, the devil. Let's not look at the physical death, which is what he led Eve to believe in, the physical death. The spiritual death is what we have to be concerned about. That's where he's trying to catch us at, to become spiritually dead. We all, saint or not saints, have to suffer the physical death. But we don't all have to suffer the spiritual death. That's where the adversary wants us all to fall at. Go ahead.
For verily, he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Wherefore in all things it behooved him to be made like unto his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to Elohim, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself have suffered, being tempted, he is able to succor them that are tempted.
All right, let's go to Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6, and we're going to read verses 10 through 20. Ephesians 6, and verse 10.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in Yahweh and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the wile of the devil. Is that well?
Put on the wiles, yes.
Wiles, okay.
Put on the whole armor, not half the armor, not partial armor, not some of the armor. The whole armor. And why are you putting on the armor? That you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Wiles, H5231, Nekel, deceit. That you may be able to stand against the deceit of the devil. Go ahead.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girded about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness.
Now, verse 13, wherefore take unto you the whole armor, once again, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to withstand. So, when it's all said and done, did you put forth all effort to withstand? Go ahead.
And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. And praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all your perseverance and supplication for all saints. And for me, the utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mysteries of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak.
Once again, the biggest thing here we got to learn is who our adversary is, who our foe is. Verse 11 says, put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the deceit. It says wiles of the devil, the deceit of the devil. He knows our likes, our dislikes. He knows the things that gets to you. And that's what he's going to use against us. It might be just a simple change requested of you. That he already knows that, they ain't going to go for this. But then that's where you're surprised and say, you know what? This helps me walk better in the culture. Let me go ahead and do what I got to do. Then he might sit and say, okay, boy, she almost got him or he almost got him. It could be an argument. Pushing buttons to say, man, she almost got him. All right, next time, I'm going to show him or how to push and go beyond the limitations. But that's where you look, if you're on one side and say, I know you're coming back. Because when we were back in Matthew chapter 4, it says the devil left him. But if you go to Luke chapter 4 and verse 13, it said for a season. So if you only read the Matthew portion, you think the devil just went about his business. It said for a season. And that's what we got to understand. When he's gone, that's what we need to be finding all the little chinks in our armor and patching up the previous wounds and them chinks in the armor and getting stronger for the next go round. Because we got to go look at both sides. When the provocation comes, you say, yeah, I know it's coming back around. And if you, the person doing the provocating, you can look at yourself and say, man, why did I do that? You know what? I'm not going to leave myself open for this anymore. Nah, I can feel when this is how I felt when this came on. And that wasn't necessary. So then you see yourself feeling that feeling and you say, nah, I see you coming. But are we observant enough to see when those little things are being thrown in? Because he looks and say, okay, yeah, it rattled him a little. Oh, next time I'm going for the knockout. That's what a true foe does. If you watch boxing, I'm a person that watch boxing and like MMA and all that stuff. And there's some people that once they get you rattled, they're all over you. And then there's others that'll rattle you and step back and watch. Anybody know Lennox Lewis? That was my problem with Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis would have you rattle and he'd just stand there and look, but I'm used to them to just pounce on you and get you out of there. Different types of foes. Different fight games. Or what they say, styles make fights. What we have to be aware of is the deceit and how the deceit is coming. And not look at the person in front of us. And also look at ourselves if we're the person being used. Through situation and circumstances, Lucifer, with Yahweh's approval, puts forth stumbling blocks in the way of the saints. We don't actually see Lucifer behind the schemes, but as stated by Kevin Spacey in the movie, The Usual Suspects, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world that he did not exist. That's all we're going to do for this evening. Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Shalom.